who you probably want to partner with, to walk you through that process. But again, from this part of the world, what have you got to contribute? Diaspora, being a diaspora African Canadian is not a qualification. And I want to dispel the idea that we live here with better, but no way, we ain't. Some of those guys, respectfully, I'm a Nigerian. Some of those guys, the stuff they're doing, we have more billionaires in Nigeria than in the black community in Nigeria, in Canada. Oh yeah. As well as in South Africa. Several years ago, I used to live in Madrid, Spain. I traveled from Madrid to South Africa on the invitation of a Global Business Roundtable and a couple of other contacts for an event. When I got to South Africa, I was living in Spain, a supposedly first world country. When I saw what young Africans under Sipom Seleku, at the time president of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a South African lawyer, when I saw the founder of the Global Business, when I saw the amazing stuff these guys were doing, I came back to Madrid, Spain, renewed in my mind, which laid the foundation of my success to date. So, what is your comparative advantage when you go to do business in Africa? What have you got to offer? What have you got to offer? Realistically, from the product and service standpoint. African Union CIS, which we belong to, were speaking with some of the representatives a few years ago, saying, Jackson, listen, some of your representatives from Canada visited us I think in Ethiopia. They came as observer. We needed them to mount the stage to tell us realistically what they were doing in Canada. They came. So the point is, I advocate for build your capacity as an individual. I know we need money. We want to make money, but it's usually not the first thing. You need to equip yourself through education, skills development, and vocational training. Entrepreneurship is tough. A beautiful thing. It's tough. Then we're going to talk about markets now. This whole idea is, respectfully as we are here, we are in market. In the course of the introduction, we all shared about what we do individually. It means we've built our capacity over the years to be able to render these services. Again, you're a regulated industry which you cannot practice except you have the credentials, the right credentials. So you've built your capacity in that respect to be able to seize inherent market opportunities within that specific sector. So, product and services tailored realistically to needs within that market sector. Then we talk about business. The business is now the vehicle with which you use a structural intervention, which you now leverage to capitalize on those market opportunities for profit. Well, I appreciate that we are all professionals and business owners here, but I'll just run briefly through the fundamentals of starting a business here, because again, we have a lot of young fellas. When I came to Canada, the first 5 years, of course, maybe based on my experience from Madrid, Spain, was to establish working relationship with these key economic development agencies of the government of Canada. When I organized my event in Jackson, the first thing was I researched into their mandate, their respective mandate. We have Business Development Bank of Canada, a financial crown corporation operating under the Ministry of Finance. We have NRC IRAP. We have a lot of them. So the first 5 years was to do a deep research about this key economic development with a mandate to support local businesses as well as assist with Canadian companies in their internationalization efforts. Equip ourselves with that knowledge, and then we started the engagement. They've got resources in tools and expert advisories valued at billions of dollars for support to ensure that businesses can start, grow and thrive locally and internationally. So I was having a chat in the course of this since I came in. I said, listen, as your work permit is a tool for you to legally work in Canada, I also recommend, doesn't matter, say, have a registered entity, especially when you're not seeing the idea of running a business in Canada. Have a legal entity upon which you will, for now or in the future, conduct your business activity. Extremely important. AfriCanada was incorporated in April 2016. The first 4 years we had no activity, realistically. But I ensure that every year we file our taxes. But the last 5 years has been something else. So again, fundamentals to start a small business here. I said identify viable business idea, the viability. So apparently, this permit me to use our young sisters as a case study. You toyed with a couple of options. Because you needed to survive. But eventually, when you went into hair braiding, because there was market for you, so you were able to capitalize on that market opportunity. And I also say this, there are some things we attempt today that we are not prepared for, because either by way of capacity, network, or finance, we can't. So that's why your level of intervention should be on the basis of your current capacity. Otherwise, you waste a lot of time. There are times you're going to do transactions in millions of dollars. But for now, sow your quote according to your size. Realistically, tell yourself the truth. This is what I can do efficiently and effectively within this space at this time. So identify a viable business idea within a market, a particular market. Do your market research. I said choose a business structure. I'm a legal corporation, sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and the rest. Register your business, open a bank account, draw your business plan. And I also want to emphasize on this, especially for our young fellas. You see, ideas are worth $1 trillion. Ideas. They are worth $1 trillion. And that's why, as a consultant, before you speak to me, I say make sure there are no intellectual property consideration. Are we good? If you're good, then we can go. Because as a consultant, I can leverage your idea and make a lot of money from it. Yeah. You give it to me because I study extensively, to develop an idea with a view, to profit from it. So are you good? So we're good. Okay, let's speak. Also, EDC, Export Development Canada, also a financial crime corporation. They've been to my event to present a few times. I remember a few years ago they were doing a presentation. They said one of their is a multi-billion-dollar financial crime corporation, wholly owned by the government of Canada. They provide export credits, for Canadian businesses doing business abroad. And he said one of the mandates of EDC, Export Development Canada, is to help protect Canadian companies' intellectual property when doing business abroad. Their intellectual. So you've invested time, resources, to develop a strategy that works. So you need to protect it by way of intellectual property. And so, as Africans, respectfully, so when we say, let them give it, no, they ain't going to give it to you. Technology ain't going to give it to you. Nobody will give you a technology for free. You got to sit down and work it out. Put in your investment and develop it and patent it. Then you commercialize it. Ain't going to give it to you. Then once you have your operations set up, and I also want to emphasize on starting small, grow organically, and expand. And expand. Start small, realistically. And also, a lot of people are in the corporate sector right now doing some sort of job that pays the bill, and they are passionate about starting a business. I said, listen, don't joke with that thing that gives you $50 daily, don't joke with it. Do not. But when you get home, take 1-2 hours and work on that passion. Until such a time, you know the side hustle can take care of your bills for the next 1 or 2 years, before you probably may take your time. That thing that gives you $50 daily, hold on tight to it. I know sometimes as human beings we just want to, but from a coaching standpoint, I usually recommend that. And then, like I said, the things, respectfully speaking, there are certain resources I enjoy today in the nation of Canada, and I didn't as a Nigerian. I just couldn't imagine that because I'm a Canadian, a permanent resident, I can have access to these tools and resources. It blows my mind. I was having a meeting with ISED a few years ago, Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. They said there are 2,700 tools and resources tailored to Canadian to help you succeed and live in 2,700 different interventions. Social physics, just mentioned 2,007. And in our policy engagement with African leaders, these are some of the areas we also have to hammer on. Creating an enabling environment for all, regardless of your background, to succeed. Enabling environment, critical tools and resources that will unleash a human being's, capacity, especially from a policy engagement with our African leaders. Then again, in Canada, I remember a few years ago, I was speaking to a lady and the daughter. I said, Jackson, I wanted her to do something medical, but she's into law. I said, allow her to do law. I said, do you know, compliance is huge in Canada. Compliance. There are friends I know, they're just helping companies stay compliant, and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year staying compliant, especially from a regulatory and legal standpoint. Especially when you conduct businesses in this part of the world. So it also, and that's why when people come to me and say, listen, I probably may not be able to advise you in this area, but I strongly recommend meet an accountant, meet a lawyer. I use professional services. I don't joke with it. I use professional services. Extremely important. If you can afford it, maybe you can appeal for a pro bono, but extremely so that these folks, they've been trained for the last 20, 30 years, and you're speaking to them, they know what to do. So it's extremely important, from being compliant as we conduct our professional activities as well as business activities. So the last point I have here is why many diasporans struggle in Africa. So the first thing is a mindset shift. It's a mindset shift. And I recommend, if you can, go to the specific African country of preference, do your market studies. Do your market studies. Say realistically, how can I engage this market based on my strength, based on, what I have as an individual. Preconceived notion, they are really dangerous in not just Africa, doing business in South America, any other part of the world. And you must understand that, this new market, you're going to have competitors. How is your product and services standing out? How are they standing out? And I would like to conclude, it's a lot of talk about Canada-Africa cooperation. And it is about time we begin to narrow it down to specific that will deliver deliverables, to all parties on the table. And we can't do business in isolation. As Africans in Canada, we must ensure that in our strategy, we develop a strategy that will carry other races along. We can't do, the money will remain in our community. I don't believe in that, respectfully speaking. I don't. Should we support ourselves? Absolutely. Should we provide mentorship? Absolutely. Should we provide access to capital to start? Absolutely. But you must build your capacity, that Dangote, Africa's richest man, said something. He said, and Sipom Seleko is, these are two billionaires, and one is South African. They said, when the product is right and the pricing is right, he said, you'll get buyers. If we have to do well in Canada or worldwide, it will not come cheap. We must be ready to pay the price. We must be ready. It's not, entrepreneurship is not for the weak. Otherwise, just work and make money. I thank you all for listening. God bless you. And Remain Jackson, Igbinosun, President and CEO of the AfriCanada Economic Summit. I'm very able to take questions.
You could actually feel the passion he's having about this topic. Before I let you go, we can take a couple of questions if anybody has. Just two in the interest of time. Anybody has a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So as an entrepreneur, funding is always a big thing. And it sounds like, what advice would you give someone like me in order to get funding to move my business from where it is to the next level?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, absolutely. Within the Canadian context, I would say have a good credit score and credit history. Especially we have a duty as leaders in the community to actually, organize more sessions like this to talk about financial literacy. Credit score, maintain your credit score. And then cash flow. Because the bank are actually interested in giving you money to do business. I think the key consideration is that do you really have the ability to pay back based on what you signed? Like frankly, and that's why if your cash flow can prove that you have the capacity to pay back based on what you are asking, they are pretty. Otherwise, they want to tie you to a collateral. It's that cash flow and make sure your credit history is good based on the society. Even some African countries are beginning to appear. Of course, I'm not dispelling, the businesses and pretty much you could have a good cash flow. They could give you 10,000 now, expand it to 20,000 and stuff. So that would be my response to that.
Is there any loan firms that don't have interest, or they have small interest, or no interest at all? You just get the money, you just start pay back the money that you owe them, nothing more, nothing less.
Your question is around low interest on a loan.
No interest.
Low to no.
No interest at all.
Yeah, or grants.
Low to no.
Grants.
Grants. Minimal interest.
Of course. Well, I don't think any financial institution will give you a loan without an interest. But I do know BDC. There was a women entrepreneur loan BDC launched either last year or last 2 years that they could give you some sort of holiday. I think they said you don't pay back the principal for the first 24 months or thereabout, but the interest. After 24 months, then you start paying back the interest. So they have all manner of, and of course, there are seasonal occupation and businesses. During winter, they are virtually closed. So BDC has a tailored Business Development Bank of Canada. It's not a regular commercial bank, but they do. The mandate is actually to infuse capital expert advisory into businesses in Canada. BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada. So, but talk to me after when I'm done with my presentation. And of course, we also have I tell you, a few years ago, a lady was just all over me. Say, I need money for, I said, come volunteer with me at my upcoming event, then I'll give you money, right? So she did. So months later, I was at York University. Somebody was Jackson, I got him, she was just from afar, So she eventually got some funding from Altana Savings. So there's also an alternative microcredit bank, that could potentially also help you access funding in the neighborhood of probably $20,000 to $50,000. Yeah, there are various interventions, but again, you want to also stay connected. Networking events like this, they are extremely essential, but you also want to stay connected to potential funding sources, but they are tailored to help you succeed. You must understand that, in all honesty, these financial institutions, they've been set up to make you succeed, because when you succeed and becomes the next CEO employing hundreds of workers, they succeed. They succeed. You understand? So, of course, they also want to be sure that they want to minimize default. Yeah. So that would be my response.
What's the highest grants that a business can get?
Typically, we have for profits and not for profits. For profits. For profit is you're doing business because you want to make profit. Not for profit is you want to give back to society based on your passion, So you could potentially access grants. Of course, businesses can also access grants. But what I would say, have a legal entity and connect with folks like us, and we'll be able to direct you to entities through this email listing. They will send you such opportunities. Woman, Black entrepreneur, they have dedicated pool of financing to support your businesses. That I can tell you. You are a woman of color in Canada, and yes, there are dedicated pool of funding that you could potentially. Yeah. Number one. Yeah.
Okay. So here's what we'll do. Fauzia, right? Fauzia. Okay. So here's what we'll do.
Yeah.
We're going to invite our next speaker, who you might even like what he shares as well. And then we'll network at the end. And you can get Jackson at the corner there and write your notes and ask questions.
All right.
Thank you so much, Jackson.
Thank you.
All right.